The comb is something that is attached to you when you pick it up. So you've got to realize that. The comb goes way back to prehistoric days. Yes, prehistoric days. And in my research, I found that they made it, but basically a comb, consider it to be a shaft with rows of teeth. And what it was meant for was basically made to get through the hair, so they could actually get through the hair. So why is it, Sam, probably one of the most mistaken tools in the industry is because I think we put a lot of importance on these, on shears, but I think it's all about where we comb the hair to, how we comb the hair really pertains to the result of what this does. So let's talk about that in regards to that. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, let's start with a regular cutting comb right away. And I'm going to talk about the mechanics of the comb itself, why it's made the way it is, the mechanics, the what, the how, and the why behind the comb. So let's go to the first comb, and let's talk about the short cutting comb. And when you take a look at the short cutting comb, Kurt, there's two types of combs. There is a comb that is short and one that's longer. And I'm going to talk about the variations of length. Okay, you can see right there the variations of length, guys. Move out of the way. You can see that. And that's a cutting comb in black. Then I'm going to go to, there's a cutting comb in white. Okay, and now notice in a backdrop, how you can really notice that I'm going to line these both up the same. And you can see one is shorter and one is longer. And we're going to talk about the why behind that. But first of all, let's examine the short cutting comb and let's look at, why is it made? This is the shaft, or what we sometimes refer to as a spine. And you'll see me teaching you how to use the spine in terms of where you comb to and how to control it. Okay. So that's the shaft, or what we're going to refer to as the spine of the comb. Okay. That's the backbone of the comb, so to speak. Then we have the fine teeth and the wide teeth. Now, the fine teeth, when we comb with the fine teeth, I want you to always remember this. The fine teeth, that's what gives you tension, okay? So we can clean a section really good, yet do we ask yourself, with that final stroke of the comb, do you want tension or do you want a sense of looseness? Then you go with the wide teeth. With the comb, once you've established that's the spine, you have the fine teeth and the wide teeth, now what I want you to do is work on just your mechanics. And this is something that a teacher told me to do all the time. She said, Sam, walk around school, hold a comb, and just do this constantly. And I said, why, teacher? She goes, because sometimes you're going to want to use the fine, and sometimes you're going to want to use the wide. So I want you to have the ability to move from one to the other without putting your comb down and picking it back up. If we can establish the mechanics of keeping the comb in our hand the entire time, you're going to have a lot more control, and it's going to help you in terms of your time. It takes time to put it down and pick it back up. So this is an exercise that I do constantly, that I'm doing constantly. Then what I did was I started working this in both hands and just doing it with both hands, left and right-handed. And why would you do that, Sam? Well, my teacher said, if I can work my left hand as good as my right, or my right as good as my left, it's going to be much more to your advantage. You're going to have an advantage of working with both hands. You're going to have one hand that's always predominant, guys, whether it be the right or the left. Okay, if you're left-handed, congratulations. If you're right-handed, congratulations. But you're going to have one that's predominant. As a hairdresser, what I'm going to recommend is that you really build flexibility in both your hands. When you're able to build flexibility in both your hands, it's going to make it easier in terms of where you're standing and how you're positioning your body. The comb itself can affect the ergonomics of the body in terms of where you're standing, and we're going to talk about that and dive into that. So this is something that I continually recommend that you do. Now, once you've done this, and people go, wow, that's like drumsticks. I've seen some guys take these things and they've got them twirling like drumsticks. I'm like, how do you do that? And they go, well, I was a drummer. So they use the spine as if the spine, the back of that comb, is actually the stick itself. Pretty interesting, isn't it? Okay. All right. Howdy, Celeb Miller. Hope you're doing well. All right. So once we've established that, we've talked about so far the what of the comb, the shaft or the spine. We've talked about the fine teeth and the wide teeth. Now, when would you use one or the other? Okay. Fine teeth, I said, was for what? Write it down. Started with a T. Does anybody remember? Fine teeth I'll use to really clean when I want a clean section. But what it does, what does it do? If I comb it last with the fine teeth, what does it do? Starts with a T, ends with shun. 10. Come on, guys. Right in there. There we go. Thank you, Ricky. Tension. Yeah, Becky. Okay. Tension. Thank you, Ricky. Yeah, tension. The fine teeth are going to give you more tension. So, Sam, when do you want more tension? I want more tension if I'm going to actually layer something out. Then I want more tension. See how I want more tension. The reason you're layering something and choosing to pick it up and layering it is because you want something to fall softer. You want it to fall shorter in one area and longer in another, or short all through the area. So that's why you pick it up and you layer it. So if you pick it up with the fine teeth of the comb, you're getting more tension. So when you release it, it flexes back on itself. It's just going to be softer. Yes, it's going to be precise because you cut a precise line, but that line's going to have a little bit more degree of softness to it just because of the tension, okay? Now, wide teeth, no tension. Or I'll use fine teeth with fine hair, so I get nice tension. I get a nice clean section. And remember, clean is a really important word when you're working with the fine teeth. Wide teeth, tension, less tension. So for example, if I'm cutting a one-length bob, I don't want a lot of tension. If I comb my last combing angle, when I say last combing angle, that's always the last way that you combed it. Be aware. Did you end up with a fine or did you end up with a wide? A lot of times with one-length bobs, people will go in and they're like, okay, I'm going to cut this with the wide teeth. But sometimes just out of habit, it's with the fine teeth. They go to place their hand in and then they come back and they're wide teeth, wide teeth, wide teeth. They find that this line here just lifted up a little bit. And it's just because the fine teeth, the stroke of the fine teeth gave it a little bit more tension. If this is making sense so far, guys, just type a big uppercase S. Teachers, do me a favor. Just ask them, is this making sense, students? If they say yes, then type a big S in the chat box there, just so we know where we're at. So with my one-length bobs, I am aware I want a clean section. So I clean it, I clean it, I clean it, but my last combing angle is wide teeth. You see, now if I keep it with the wide teeth all the way through, the tension remains the same. Interesting, isn't it? Because we think, okay, well, the fine teeth will clean the section. The wide teeth will give me, because it's a lot of hair, I'm going to use the wide teeth. That's important. But I really want you what the result is when you use the fine teeth and the wide teeth. Teachers, any questions so far? Ask your students, are there any questions so far? Okay. Now, what's the difference, Sam, between the length? Okay. Well, what do you think? What do you think would be when would I use the short comb and when would I use the long comb? Okay. When would I use the short comb and when would I use the long comb? Somebody tell me, when would I use the short comb? I'd use it for what kind of hair, what kind of length? When would I use the long comb? What kind of length? Teachers, type it in there. Ask your students to type it in the chat box. I know I'm going to use the short comb for no questions. Thank you, Celeb. Then I must be doing really good if they have no questions so far. Thanks, Celeb. Okay, so I'm going to use the short comb for short hair. I'm going to use the long comb for longer hair, or wider sections, if you will, if you're taking wider sections. So sometimes people go, well, my hand is small. I'm going to work with a small comb. My hand is larger. I need a large comb. That works also. But understand also what's a matter of what's comfortable in your hand. That's correct. But sometimes I want a longer comb because I'm working with longer hair. Okay, you with me there? All right, so now let's talk about colors. At Samvia, basically, I'm going to take both short combs. Now, what we've done here is, look at that. We've gone with black and with white. Okay, now notice when I take the color of the comb close up to the hair, the black starts to get lost within the color. But if I take the white up against the hair, I can really see that line. See the line? So that tells me, Sam, do you have that line really straight up vertical? Nope, I need to turn it right there. Now it's vertical. Now let's go with the black. If I'm here, guys, I might say, well, that's a straight line. Well, let's put the white there. Look at the difference. You see the difference? I need to move that comb here. So the contrast of your comb, which is why at Samvia, why we're come out with a black and a white. I'll use my black comb, the color is black, on my light levels of color, my blondes, okay, so that I have the contrast. I'll use the white on the dark level. Now, what do you mean contrast, Sam? I don't quite understand. Watch. If I'm going to pick this haircut up, okay, and I'm going to cut this diagonal line on it, can you see that with this comb, I can really see a diagonal line there? See that? if I start to come in, see how I'm combing, see how the comb is there, and I can start to adjust my diagonal line. But if I come in with a dark comb and I comb, now what happens is I get lost. See how it's lost? Now I start looking at just my finger and I start to lose the comb. Immediately the comb comes out. Now I'm trying to adjust my fingers to what I believe is the diagonal. When you comb, watch this. I'm going to give you some exercises too. Watch this. When I comb, my finger position, my finger angle immediately comes up to the comb. Now look at my thumb. Look at my thumb. My thumb here is pushing the comb up against my hand. See how I'm pushing that? I'm not bringing it away. So I push it up against that. So that way these two, my finger angle, my finger position, and my comb, they stay glued together. Then what we do is we let the comb lead us to that angle. So now watch with white. So based upon what I said, watch the comb curve. Look at it curve. Do you see that comb curving? That's how much pressure I'm putting up against my finger angle, my finger position. So now what happens is, see how that leads me to the angle I want. Instead of me just combing and thinking, oh, I'm at a diagonal. See how valuable the comb is, guys? Now, let's see if I got some questions there. Okay, we love more beauty schools. Yes, we do. Great point. That makes sense. Thank you. The contrast in comb color helps us adjust and cut more precisely. Exactly. It helps celeb with the angle. Great little change that will be very helpful. Yeah, be aware of the color of the comb to create consistency. See, students, the more consistent you are with your cut as you execute from step 1 to step 5, the less work you're going to have to do to go back in and detail it or fix it or tweak it. Does that make sense? So it's about creating consistency. So we've talked about the comb, what it is, how it works, and the why behind it. But when you use it, and I want to get deeper into the how, is really critical. You have to understand. Watch this, guys. You have to get this. Watch. Look at the center of my body. Okay, that's the center of my body. I'm going to keep my chain right there in the center. Watch. Wherever I put my hand, my hands will always come back to the center of my body. You see that? That's me picking up the hair and combing it so it comes to the center of my body. Watch. Even if I'm over here, it's going to comb to the center of my body. So what I need to be aware of, where is my body position in relation to the head? Because wherever my body is at, that's where I'm going to end up combing to. So let's say, for example, watch, I'll give you a side view. Okay. And I want to over direct right here. See if I can set this up for you. Watch, I'm going to put a clip right here. Okay. That's where I want to comb to. I want to comb right there. Everybody see that? You can barely see it, but let's see what else I could do here. Okay. Never fear. Sammy's here. Stay with me, guys. Okay. I've got an idea. All right, let's do this. Okay. This is the where I want to comb that hair to, right there. Okay. And I'm going to take a section right here underneath this. Okay. Okay. So right here at this edge of that paper, I'm going to tilt her a little bit so you can see. There we go. Okay. So now this right here, that's where I want to comb the hair to. Okay. So I'm going to comb the hair there. I'm going to take a section right here. I'm going to elevate it horizontally and I'm going to comb it right back to that. See that? That's where I want to comb it to. So now watch a little tool. Let's just talk about this little hot tip I'm about to give you using the spine so that you can determine where you're combing to, where you're over directing to. Watch the action now. I'm going to pick up a section. I'm going to comb that section and I want to make sure I comb it right there. I'm going to over direct it back to that position there. Just write a big capital Y if you're with me so far. Just write a big capital Y if you're with me so far. Okay. Come on, teachers, ask them if they're with you. And put a big Y in the chat box. I need to know before I go on. Okay, I'm going to say it one more time. I'm going to take a section here. I'm going to comb it vertically. See, I'm positioned vertically. And I'm going to over direct it right there. Okay, see that? A lot of times what happens is we don't know where we're combing to. We think we're combing to that line. But what's so easy is this. You pick up the section. Watch this. I'm going to clean the section. Fine teeth of the comb. Clean on both sides. See that? Look where the teeth are pointing. The teeth are pointing to the front. So I'm combing the front right to the middle of that section. Now, excuse me, the back. Now I comb the front to the middle of that section. Okay, now I'm ready to over direct. So now my last combing angle is going to be in the front and then the spine. I watch the spine and the spine stops right at that line. When the spine stops at that line, I turn my comb towards me, teeth towards you, and I comb straight out. Do you see how I did that, guys? The mechanics of that. So what I'm trying to explain to you is, don't just get in the habit of pick up the comb, and comb it. See, I'm a one-sided comber. If I'm a one-sided comber, I'm going to over-direct this in most cases too much. Listen to what Sammy's about to say. Listen to this. Teachers, I want you to think about this for a moment. And this is for the questions for the teachers as well as the students. If you're right-handed, I guarantee we get the right side longer than we get the left. If we're left-handed, I'm going to go left-handed now. If we're left-handed, then what happens is we get the left longer than we get the right. Now, why is that, Sam? It's because two things are happening. Number one, we comb on just one side, so that encourages over-directing back to your body. Secondly, is we're not aware of where our body is standing in relation to where we want to comb the hair to. So if I want to comb this hair to that line right there, then my body needs to be centered right here. Does that make sense, guys? You see that? So if I'm centered here, there's my body, it's centered. I take a section from here to here. Yes, I'm going to move my body to cut it, but I'm aware, comb on the back to clean it, fine teeth, comb on the front to clean it. Now I'm ready to over direct, comb and over direct back. Now I'm in line with that. Now I'm here, I reposition. Let me just reposition and reposition, but my spine of the comb is always on that line. See, so I got to be aware of where my body's at. See, watch, on the right side, we continue to cut, whether we cut over our hand or whether we cut palm to palm. I'll talk about that in a moment. But what happens is we come through and we keep combing, but see, we can't move because what's in front of us is our arm. Our arm is in front of us. So our body doesn't want to move. But over here, when I go here and I'm like this, what's in front of me? Nothing. So I don't want to move. So I move more forward this way. So that's why you tend to overdirect one side. You overdirect the right side. If you're a vertical cutter, you overdirect the right side more than you do the left. So what do I need to be aware of, Sam? You need to be aware of your body position, where your hand position is too. Thank you, Amanda. Yeah. Where your elbow cough. Was that an elbow cough, Amanda? Okay. So don't be a one-sided comber. Absolutely right. You want to comb on both sides. Clean the section. Now be aware where you're combing to. Be aware your body is at. Okay. Whether you choose to elevate horizontally. Look at this. See where that's at? That's where I want to do. If I want to be there, then I better be aware of where I'm at. So I'm using maybe a part of her face as an example in terms of if I'm elevating horizontally. So I keep consistent elevation as I move up horizontally. I used to get my left side longer than my right, but in the past couple of weeks, my right side is now longer. Kelsey, just be aware of where you're standing and where you're combing it to. You're being a little bit, the reason you were getting, I used to get my left side longer than my right. The reason you were getting your left side longer was your body was too far back, okay? Now, when you get your right longer, your body's too far back. Be aware, where's that body position, okay? Let's just draw that out. See, I knew four positions. I knew, this is the position I knew. This is position 1, the middle part. Number 2, the ear. Number 3, center back. Number 4. But if we take a look at this, I want to be able to put a halfway mark in there and be aware where I'm standing in relation to that. So let's take a green marker and let's just watch this. If I take 2 combs and I do this and this on a box, watch this. I'm going to use black. If I take 2 combs and I do this, okay, I go like this. See where those 2 combs meet? That's the halfway point right there. See, that's telling me right here, there's a halfway point. That's a tradition. That's a transition of where they had turns. Now watch this. If I take this large comb and I place it here and I just slide my finger right here, it comes off at that point, off at that point. That's telling me that's where the head rounds. So watch now in black. Because I know this, I now am aware of where I position my body. So I want to position my body here, 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 here. These are natural positions of the body where you position your body when you're combing. Now, do I position it here and here and here and move sometimes? Yes. but I'm aware of where am I at in general to this area. Where am I at in general to this area? Watch. If I'm cutting this side, and I stand here and I cut, I guarantee you, you're going to be over directing back. Now, this is getting longer. If I stand here, look at the difference. Look where I'm standing here. Look where I'm standing here. Now, if I come through and I do this, okay, I'm over directing this, not as much as I'm over directing this. So this hair here travels a further distance to get there. This hair travels a shorter distance. So this hair falls here and this hair falls down here. Does that make sense, guys? You see? So you have to really understand where are you standing, because that affects the comb. Now that was huge. And that was just talking about the cutting combs, guys, the short and the long and the why, the what, the how, the why behind the comb in regards to the lengths and the colors and the mechanics of the comb. If you learn something there, teachers, ask your students, did they learn something? Yes, Celeb, you got to be aware of body and hand position. So critical. Look, you can cut a straight line with the shears, but I want to ask you a question. Are you consistent where you just combed it to? That's critical, because if you're not, one side's going to be longer, one side will be longer this way, one side will be longer within weight distribution, and then all you're doing is fixing this, and then they come in, they say, this side seemed heavier. I think it grew faster. No, it was your over direction that created the weight inside. Okay, so critical to know. All right, so now a lot of times what happens is you're cutting wet. So when you're cutting wet, you have a lot more control of your section. See, I'm combing on both sides. So now what do you suggest we do, Sam? Exercise. You got to work out, students, when you're not busy. Grab a mannequin, wet it down, and just start practicing combing. Look at me comb on both sides. Both sides. Now watch me over direct back to this line. Boom, spine over it, turn up. Let me clean it. Boom, I stay there. See how I've done this? You see? So this is practice, guys. You don't need a pair of shears to practice. Practice with this tool. Okay, watch now. Let's work on vertical. Okay, let's go wide teeth, sectioning tooth. Let me section, eliminate. Section and eliminate. And look how I'm eliminating with the fine teeth. Why? More tension. That hair will stay there. You see how I'm working on my control, on my sectioning. Okay, I'm going to cut that triangle section, or let's just go vertical. Look how I switched to the wide teeth of the comb, fine teeth of the comb, and separate. Now look how much control I have of this vertical section. Now I'm aware where I'm going to take this. I'm aware. Watch me over direct right to that corner. So I'm going to stand here. My body is opposite the corner for eye. I'm aware where I'm standing, and I'm going to comb right to that where that spine is, center of my body. Boom, I'm ready to cut. You see how it's not just about picking up the hair and cutting it, guys. This is so huge. What a great day to learn today. A great day. I see a green dot. St. Patty's Day was yesterday, but I see a green dot. Yeah, section and eliminate. Oh, I love that language. Section, eliminate. Section and eliminate. So section and eliminate what you don't need. That helps you with control, guys. You have to understand control. So when you're working with a comb wet, I have a lot more control. When the hair is dry, I don't have as much control. So I got to figure out what's the density. So I might move, Kurt, to a large cutting comb. I might move to a wide cutting comb. And I work with this when I'm working maybe with natural movement, or I'm working maybe with my dry cutting. Same idea. I'll work this maybe with I love working this with my long kind of styling. But once again, same concept of fine and wide. And there's a reason for that. So I've seen some people, they go, Sam, I like to cut with the wide cutting comb. I go, why? Because I get more looseness. And everything right now I'm cutting more looseness. I don't want the tightness of a small comb. So that could be the difference between the two in terms of how you're working with this comb. Now, I tend to like this comb in terms of when I'm working with really kind of longer hair that's thick, I'll work with this comb. If I have kind of wavy hair, not so much coily hair. If I've got coils, extremely coiled hair, the comb goes down. I'll work more with my hands. And your fingers are combs, guys. Okay? These are the teeth. These are combs. So sometimes you'll see no comb and you're working with your hands and you're cutting just as your hands is a comb. Why? So you get a much more deconstructed edge. The more precise edge I want, the more deconstructed edge I want, unless in terms of when I'm cutting. Okay. So that's why sometimes a large comb really comes into play versus working with a smaller comb. Okay, questions. Now I'm just going to take a pause here, take a sip of my water, and what I want you teachers to do is ask the students any questions. What issues do they have before I move on to some more combs here? Okay. What issues do they have in regards to that? Kurt, we got a giveaway too later on, don't we?
We sure do, Sam. I want to say, Sam, I can't help but be inspired watching you teach all the time to the best professionals in the world. How important the fundamentals you're bringing to the table right now, positioning and practice, practice, practice. You taught this at ISSE's just last week, the importance of rotating that comb and the value it gives you behind the chair.
Good. Yeah, I mean, fundamentals, guys, fundamentals are so critical, but you can hear it and you can listen and you can learn, but you got to act on it. And the way you're going to act on it is, people go, wow, it seems like the comb is attached. Guys, in the beginning of my career, this walked around with me all the time. In school, I was told once, and it walked around with me. Whenever I had a chance, I was combing something, picking something up. So it actually becomes a part of your hand. Remember what I said in the beginning, when you pick a comb, your hand's attached to it, your body's attached to it, your mind's attached to it, your eyes are attached to it, your heart and soul are attached to it. This is the tool that gets everybody in trouble. It's nothing more. So know how to use this. As far as the issues, you're really covering the issues I've had before now, just to make the changes and see improvement. Yeah, guys, change is constant. You know what? You got to embrace change. Look at what's happening in the world. We've all changed the way we now operate our lives, basically. So you've got to be able to change. And students, I'm going to tell you something. Don't think you know everything. This is Sammy telling you, you don't know everything. I don't know everything. I'm still learning. There's always something constantly to learn from these tools here. All right, let's go into tail comb. Now, tail comb, okay? Let's see. Do you prefer a plastic tip for foiling or a metal tip? That's great. I was just going to talk about that, Kimberly, in regards to this. I agree with Kurt. We're definitely learning a lot today, especially amazing since I'm so close to graduating, getting all the tips and tricks. Morgan, yes, fundamentals, my dear, fundamentals. All right. Now, Becky, yeah, foiling comb. Let's see. Rosario, I'm right there with you. I always drop my comb. Hey, I drop my comb all the time. The more you work with it, the less you're going to drop it. I know many a great drummer that's dropped his drumsticks. Seen it all the time at concerts and stuff. Metal versus plastic. Okay. Metal. A lot of people that foil will work with a metal. And the reason being is because it's much more stiff. They can get a little bit more of an accurate weave. A lot of times they like it because it folds a lot easier. You could use metal or plastic, whatever works for you. Okay, so I'm not here to tell you which one's the right one, which one's the wrong one. What I want you to do is find out what's most comfortable for you. Now, look at how we've made this. See how my middle finger goes right underneath, and you see how that gives me a lot more control of weaving. So I've got my thumb on top for pressure. My finger comes underneath. So if I squeeze this, it keeps that pretty tight, and I'm able to weave. If I did this, just this, held it just like that without placing my finger in there and held it just like this can get too flimsy. See how it moves? See that? But if I place my finger there, now it's a lot more structured. I have a little bit more structure out of it. So that's why you want to use this. Now, which one do you prefer personally? Obviously, I prefer this one. My goal is to make a metal tail comb, but I want to make it longer. And I want to make the tip just slightly a little bit more rounded so you're not ripping the foil, and longer so you can get a wider section. Sometimes they're just too short. But I want to maintain the same model of that. What I love about this is just the application of your middle finger being able to go there. The other thing, too, is I've seen people use this particular section here, and they'll use this for like a really chunky weave. They'll go in like this, and they'll use it like this for what's much more of a chunky type of weave, if you will, when they go through and weave. So it's just a matter of what's comfortable for you, whether it's metal or tail. I love using this when I braid. Okay, I'll use this a lot when I braid. So if I'm braiding something, it just really helps me to get my sectioning. So if I'm here and let's say I'm going to do a nice tight cornrow. Okay, I like to wear my wrist. It goes in here. You listen to what your teachers tell you and stay bored. Don't you dare grab bad habits. Now, if I want it really clean, look how I use my tail comb and I slice, place that slice inside, and now I can continue to braid. Okay, so I love using this for braiding. I'll use this also for zigzag sections. Okay, for zigzag sections. So if I want to go through and I want to get a zigzag section, then it makes it a lot easier. Now, why would you want a zigzag section? If I pick this zigzag section up and cut it, okay, you can see how that's zigzag. If I cut this, the edge is going to fall a little bit more diffused, so I'm looking for a softer edge. I'll also use this, and this works out great when you're going through, and let's say you're working with dry shampoos. One of the best ways to go in and teach a client to apply a dry shampoo is to simply go in and use the tail comb. Because when you apply a dry shampoo, you want it applied to that scalp. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm just going to apply the comb and a dry shampoo here. I'm working with Redken's Deep Clean Dry Shampoo. And see, I just apply it there, just like that. Just hold on to it. Now I can slice, and now I can come in and spray that shampoo. It's most responsive area where I want the dry shampoo to really activate. And that's just down at that base in these areas. So learn how to work with all types of combs. I mean, I know people that travel only with just a cutting comb. You know, I feel you're going to need all types and even more. You know, there's even large tail combs, bone combs that people tend to love. So what is the difference with a metal tail comb and a plastic? Remember, metal, it's much more responsive in terms of people like it because it's more responsive in terms of when they're weaving. It's a stiffer weave and they can weave faster and get nice clean slices. So with plastic, what we did, and down the road, I'd love to make a metal. This counters that. So you have the pressure here on top and on bottom, and it just gives you a really clean, stiff kind of slice, if you will. So it's a matter of what you're comfortable with, tail or plastic. That's just a matter of choice. So we've talked about cutting combs. We talked about lengths and colors. We talked about our wide cutting comb, and we've talked about our tail cutting comb. Now, as you expand in your career, you're going to start to develop, you're going to start to expand your kit, as I've expanded mine. You know, I tend to work with like this comb I love working with when I'm going through. I mean, all kinds of combs, guys. This is a great weaving comb. Just makes it a lot easier when you go in and you weave. I like working with this comb also. See how wide that comb is? You know, sometimes when I have really kind of coiled hair and I would just want to expand it. So I love working with this. Also, I'm loving this comb, guys, right now when I work with my curling iron work and going through and just combing it through so I'm not pulling it on so much. So there's a lot less tension with this comb. So remember, the closer the teeth are, the more tension you're going to get. The wider the teeth are, the less tension you're going to get with that. Okay. What is my favorite comb to use? I have to say the long cutting comb is my favorite. This is the one I use, and I just like having a longer cutting comb. It just feels more, it feels more comfortable into my hand. Okay. A weaving comb. This would be a tail comb. Okay. Becky, what is a weaving comb? A weaving comb is considered to be a tail comb so that you can actually, you can actually weave with it. Okay. Okay, you're going to get that comb. Okay, great. Let's see. What else does that do for you? What is a weaving comb? What does it do for you? That basically, like I said, a weaving comb is when you're going through your weaving. All right, now let's go into some other combs. This is what we call, like I said, you might expand your kit as you go down the road. Okay, this is the artist series. Now, this is interesting because this was actually developed by Andrew Carruthers, who is now a cultural ambassador. Past education director, but I want you to look at these. These are barber combs. Okay, now look at the way they're shaped. Look how much more narrow they are. Do you see that, guys? I'll put the white one against me. You can see that. Look at that. Okay, let's take a regular cutting comb and let's go white and position it too. See the difference? I'll turn it around so they match. There you go. Okay, can you see the difference in the two? Okay, and then one's more narrow on the fine and wide. These are the combs my dad would use in the barber shop, and these are barber combs. Now, I want you to watch this. Look how flexible this comb is. Do you see that? That allows you to really push this up against the scalp really tight. It gives you that flexibility to get in there really tight, scissor over comb. Okay, so that's the flexibility of these. Look at this. Here's your wide cutting comb. Look at how wide that is, how thick this is, the shaft or the spine of the comb. And now take a look at the scissor over comb. Look at that. Look how narrow that is. Okay, so once again, flexible. So it allows you to work scissor over comb, push up against the scalp with nice ease, and it gives you more flexibility getting inside of there. So these are the Artist Series combs. These are barber combs. Okay, so that's much more. What's the difference? They're more narrow. They're tapering combs to get in there really tight, to taper things down really tight, and they have more flexibility into them. Okay. What about combing color? What is your favorite comb for that purpose? For combing color, go to your wide cutting comb. Okay. This way you're able to get through that color. What I don't want you to do is apply too much tension to that. Remember, compromise. You've got chemical on the hair. So I'd really suggest using the wide teeth. Okay. Notice the wide teeth are very short on the bar. Notice the teeth are very short on our barber combs. Once again, yes. You notice that on these? Look at, here's a cutting comb. Okay. Look at the difference in terms of the length. Okay. So let's put them together. And you can see one is more short and one's more longer. Okay. Once again, tapering, extremely short hair, you have more control of it. That's why the teeth are shorter compared to a normal cutting comb. Okay. Great questions you guys are asking. I love my wide cutting comb for color. Yep. It works amazing. I highly recommend use that for color. Okay. Let's see. Use the wide teeth comb when doing color work. Yes. How would you use that? That for clipper over comb. For clipper over comb, I love using, these are my clipper combs. Okay. So I have a lot more control because I've got a handle for it. And then I've got my wide teeth, and then I have the flexibility. So once again, the flexibility allows me to get in tight. And now can you see how I can get really tight with clipper over comb? And then the narrowness of that. This is one thing I really want you to get. When you're shopping for barber combs, make sure that they're narrow and not so thick. The thicker they are, the more it's going to kind of push you. It's going to leave more length, and you're not as able to get close to the scalp. Okay. What comb would you use for layering? When I layer, I use a cutting comb and I use the fine teeth. Remember, when I layer, I want more tension. So because the layers are going to give a soft edge, so you're looking for soft edge, you're going to get more tension. So that's what I would use, Jody, for Amanda. Excuse me. I would use that. I would use that for my layering. Okay. All right. So now, if I have a fringe area like this, okay, here's a great little tip. If I have a fringe area like this, and this fringe area pops up like this, what I want to do is make sure I teach the client how to go in and work with this. If I used a paddle brush, I want you to notice, look how high the nylon bristles, look how high it is off the base. So it doesn't really give me, look at that. It doesn't really give me an opportunity to really affect, I'm going to go down here as you can see it. It doesn't give me an opportunity to really affect the scalp area. So when we want to go through, give you a hot tip now, when you're going through and you're going to cut a fringe on a client, a fringe, guys, is bangs. I always want you to ask the client, are you up for the maintenance? Because this is the first place that's going to bother them because it gets in their eyes. And they're going to go, what do you mean? Well, you have a widow's peak here, a calic. You need to spritz this down with a water bottle every morning. Just spritz that down. Now what the water is going to do is going to get that to lay down, but now you need to go in and blow dry it. And by going in and blow drying this every morning, you're going to be able to control the erratic area. But what you're going to use to blow dry is a comb. And the reason you're using a comb is because a comb, look at that, it gets down to that scalp area. See that? Whereas if I used a paddle brush, it's too high. I'm working twice as hard to get to control that. Is this making sense, guys? So you teach them how to X pattern with a comb, how to X pattern with a comb, how to X. See, I go one direction. Now I come back the opposite direction, opposite direction, opposite direction. By doing this, what you're doing is you are controlling that growth pattern. So you control the growth pattern here by simply working with a comb. So now why did I show that to you? Because I want you to understand that a comb is a blow dry tool also. You know, if I have coily hair at the scalp, I recommend use the fine teeth of the comb, grab it because you're going to have more tension. You're going to be able to stretch that right at the scalp. So a comb is not just for combing. It can also be used as a blow dry tool also. Okay. Last thing I want to talk to you about before we put the closure on this, Kurt, is I want to go in and I want to go through and detangle. Okay. So I've talked to you in the past about brushes. If you were with us on brushes, where I've taught you to go through and understand a paddle brush, you line it up. Look how all those vinyl bristles are lined up. See that? But and that's because I'm holding it vertical. If I go horizontal, it's just a bunch of bristles and a cushion. See how they're not lined up? So when I detangle, I line this up vertically. It's a lot easier to detangle. If I go in horizontal, you're putting the tangle in more. The same principle works with a comb. Watch this. If this is a tangle, let's just put that in. That's a tangle right there. Oh, that looks kind of cool. I like that. Ooh, wait a minute. Look at that. Oh. You see? Creative, spontaneous moments. I like this wave. Okay. All right, moving on. Now, watch what I'm going to do. If I go in horizontally and comb this, even if I start down here, you're putting the comb in. You're placing the comb in horizontally and you're putting the tangle in deeper. What I want you to do is watch this. I want you to just take the sectioning tooth that we gave you, this part here, where it's wider on the wide side, and I want you to come in like this. Now watch this. Notice how I'm not pulling on her, and look how I work my way up. Okay, so I'm using one row of teeth just to comb versus an entire row of teeth, a horizontal row. Now watch this. Now look at me comb horizontally, and look how easy I got that tangle out. Does that make sense, guys? Now that's understanding your tools. I want you to start thinking, students, like a fashion designer. A fashion designer understands the limits and capabilities of the fabric they're working with. Silk, wool, cotton. They understand what it can and cannot do. We have to understand what we can and cannot do to fabrics of hair. We have to understand how to use what we can and cannot do with combs. These combs are heat resistant. Put a flat iron on them. They're not going to melt. They can take the heat. But I want you to understand how important these tools are. I really believe, as I started the program, this is a tool that gets everybody in a situation where we're spending too much time correcting work because we're not aware of where we're standing. We're not aware of how we're combing it. So just really understand that, to me, these are the most important tools. So the idea, once again, is this. Understand the limits and capabilities of your tools makes it a lot easier for you to work from beginning to end to get the results that you want to get. Kurt, come on back, buddy.
Sam, I got some interesting questions for you here at the end of our class that I think you would love to answer. Let's start with Morgan.
Okay, Morgan, this is great. Watch this. Here's an exercise you're going to do. Okay. Let's take more. Let me just read Morgan's question. Do you have any advice for keeping your clipper comb steady? I tend to struggle with getting uneven lines and moving my comb. Oh, give it to me, Kurt. Take that question away. Okay, watch. Okay. Oops. My music stand. This is my son's music stand, actually. He's 4. He thinks he can play instruments. But anyway, watch what I'm going to do here. All right. I'm going to bring this down because I want you to see what I'm going to teach you to do. Okay. So here is your comb. Okay, see, that's your comb. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the tooth of the comb, and to stabilize it, I'm going to place the tooth right in the corner of a wall. You see that? And I want you to just use an old comb or something just to stabilize. Then what you're going to do now, I'm going to use here, grab my clippers. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the clipper to that. But now watch my pinky. Look at my pinky. See how my pinky stabilizes a comb. But more what I'm doing is I'm stabilizing that up against that corner, and I'm working with my clippers. Okay. Now this is also a great exercise to do when you're here. Watch me use my index finger up against that comb. See how I stabilize that? Now what happens is, see how they move together? You see how they're moving together? See that? If I don't stabilize, finger doesn't stabilize, now the comb takes off without the scissor, and I'm getting all kinds of jumps in my line. Okay, so watch with a clipper. So learn to stabilize with a clipper. You'll learn whether it's your index finger, your middle finger, what's going to be easy for you to control that. You'll figure that out. But that's a great way to do it. Now, if you want to get expert at it, Go up against the wall and just start working and realize, look, see, I go up and down, up and down, up and down. And I do that working with my scissor. Once again, guys, it's about working out. It's about, you could be told something, but my question is, did you hear it and did you do it? That's important. Okay. Which type of comb do you prefer when dealing with hair extensions? Oh, you want to go here. I just did a shoot on hair extensions last week. And one of the things when you're combing extensions, let's go to the long hair. When you're combing extensions, you want to use a larger comb. You're going to have a lot more control of that by using a larger comb. But it's how you comb it that's important. Watch this. So with extensions, what you want to do is you want to keep your comb. Watch my comb angle. I'll give it black on blonde. You want to make sure you keep your comb angle flat. If you don't keep it flat, you're going to be picking up the extensions. Watch what I mean. Watch. When I'm here, look at the comb. See that comb? It's flat. I'll go left-handed so you can see. Okay. See how I comb? Look at me comb. Now watch when I get past the round of the head, I pick up. Did you see that? If I go like this, you're going through the extensions. So what I want to do is I want to keep that comb flat and I comb. See the teeth? I'll give you a 3/4 view. The teeth are in the hair, but what I'm doing is I'm floating over that extension. Now I pick up when I get past the hair. Does that make sense, guys? Watch. If I'm going to slice this horizontally, okay, one of the things you always want to be is you want to comb in the direction you're going to slice. Now look how I'm combing. Look how I lay it flat, extensions. I'm passed around the head, now flat. See that? I turn towards me. So I'm here, flat. I'm combing, but I'm not perpendicular to the head. Now you're going to grab the extensions. So I'm here, past the head, I turn. Look how clean I got that. Now you're going to slice. I slice, and I slice to my index finger. I get my horizontal slice. What I don't want you to do is that's extensions. But when you're slicing, I don't want you to comb this hair down vertical and then start to slice horizontally. You're going against the grain of the hair. To make your slicing and sectioning easier, comb the hair. The direction you're going to slice gives you a much even line and you're not fighting. Okay? That's a slicing exercise there. That's what I mean by grabbing a mannequin and practice. Practice your combing, practice your sectioning, practice your slicing, practice where your body stands. What mannequin are you using right now? The only mannequin that I love to work with is a pivot point mannequin. And I love pivot points because they've got different sizes of head shapes that are much more human, and the hair is human hair. So you're getting able to really get good results cutting it. And you've got growth patterns also in there. Okay. What is the best comb to detangle with straight hair versus curly hair? Okay. Straight hair, you could go anywhere to a cutting comb. Okay. Depending upon the density, you'll go wide. If I have curly hair, depending upon the curl, I'm more or less brushing out with my hands, anywhere from a 6 to 10, 6 being a nice kind of soft curl to it. So it just depends upon the texture of hair you're working with. It depends upon the amount of curl you're working with. I don't always use a comb, guys. So if I have coily hair, I've got to be careful with it. Watch. If I have coily hair, then I really need to be careful about this. So the comb is down and I'm using my hands, if anything, picking up sections and freehanding things. But I understand the texture of the hair. Okay. This all comes with experience in working with different textures of hair and determining what tool to use. Okay. All right. If teachers, ask your students if they learned something today, just type learn in the chat box for me. Just let me know where we're at. Kurt, come on back in. And I believe we have a giveaway, buddy.
We do, Sam. Before we give it away, and we are about to give it away, there's going to be some tool envy going on here shortly. Yes, Sam.
I had a question there. Who is she from Pivot Point? Okay. Now this one here is Lydia. Okay. This is Erica. One of them there's ones I like are Lydia, and then I like Maddie. Maddie is a longer hair blonde, and then Lydia. Lydia is a Sanvia mannequin. It's great. You can get at least 3 haircuts out of it, and you can do long hair and curling iron tricks on it. So those are the mannequins that I work with, guys. Maddie, love Gwen, but they're Pivot Point mannequins. Maddie, Gwen are my blondes. Erica and Lydia are my brunettes. Thank you, Kurt.
You betcha, my brother. Well, it is about that time, Sam, to give it away and give somebody the lucky opportunity to be the envy of their school. And we are real close to do that. Okay, this was the giveaway that we discussed at the top of the hour. It is the texture iron along with the 1.5-inch barrel of our 2-in-1 Marcel. Many of you have the 2-in-1 Marcel in your kits, but if you happen to be one that does not have it, you're about to have one for a lucky winner. So may I, Sam, go ahead and announce our winner this month. Drum roll, please. Anybody out there, please? Mateo, please, drum roll.
Yeah,
Mateo,
right.
Sammy's 4-year-old son, who is a drummer. If he's not today, he will be. Here's our winner. Congrats to Kim Winters. Kim, I just saw you in the chats. Congratulations. You are the winner of this now. You probably need to get a safety deposit box to lock this into at your school so that nobody shows up with it in their station the next day. But we're actually looking forward to you guys having a lot of fun with these two tools. Sam, I just want to say I've been taking notes about what incredible value that you brought to the table today, and I've got too many notes to discuss. So I'm just going to have to say goodbye. If you'd like to just give a last moment of goodbye, and then I'll close up things for the show today.
You bet. Students, remember, I want you to remember something. I once sat where you sat. And if you had only seen me the first 3 months of school, I'll never forget my teacher saying, Sam, your rollers are falling out underneath the dryer. Go back over there with your guests or your client, put the rollers back in, and you might want to consider doing something else. So if you think you're having a tough time, can you imagine after that what she said to me, the tough time that I had, thinking, should I continue or should I not continue? I'm very happy that I've continued. But I really decided from that point, I was going to prove to her that I could do this. So I want you to understand something. If you're going through some struggle right now, you keep saying, God, I can't cut my comb. I got to put my comb down. First of all, you need to change the mindset and say, you can do it. You can do it. You know, where you say, it's in that just don't quit. In that phrase, just don't quit, there's a phrase inside of there that's hidden. Just do it. But it happens from just doing practice, practice, practice. Remember, I sat where you sat. If I can do it, you can do it. God bless you. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you're the rainbows of the future. You're going to take my place someday. Thanks for watching.